Welcome to Retro Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of Airfix and Vickers Valiant Mk1. Scale is 172. In this part, I'm going to be making a start on the kit and building the cockpit. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. I'm starting off with the cockpit, and I'm going to be painting the cockpit with Umbro RC414 Executive Dark Grey. Now, the instructions call for a black, but this is almost black to the eye anyway, and it's because there's other blacks going on here, it will add a contrast to it. Next, I'm using Umbro RC401 Dirty Black, and this is for the steering columns, the ladders, and things like that. So, as I said, it gives a different contrast to the black. If you're wondering what the RC reference is on the paints, this is Umbro's paint for railway, so for railway carriages and things like that. So as you can see, I'm going onto the seats and I'm using the same 401 colour to paint the metal parts of the seats. The bulkhead at the rear of the cockpit is RC408 Apple Green. Now the instructions are calling for a slightly darker green here, but I didn't have any and I didn't want to mix any paint, so I'm using the closest one I've got. So it's not quite the right colour, it's just about 2 shades off that it actually should be. And I'll be using the same colour for the rear seats of the compartment. This is where the navigator and bombers and everyone sits. Once the paint's dry, I can put on the first decal, and the decal is going on normal way. I'm softening it in warm water first, then laying down a coat of microset, then placing on the decal. Now, the solution, as I've said before, and there's many videos of other people that have done for these solutions. They just help soften the decal to a point where it will mold itself to the shape that you're putting on. If you don't have something like that, I would suggest you get a product like this because it really does help the decal settle down. As you can see, I'm carrying on putting the decals here. So these are ones for the control panels for the where the pilots sit, so where the arm columns are and so on. The big one you can see on the paper towel, that's going to be for the navigation station, and then that decal itself gets placed onto the bulkhead. Now, if you look at the colour of the decal, to the colour of the background that I painted, it just about matches, as I said, but it's not quite the right shade, but it does blend in, and to be honest with you, when everything is in, you're not really going to see it anyway. It's one of these builds where you can put a lot of work into the cockpit, but you're really not going to see it. For the seats, I'm using Umbro 62 leather. Now, again, the instructions are calling for a different colour, but it was too dark and it would get completely lost in the black, so I decided to do the lighter colour just to give it a bit of contrast. Now that the decals are dried, it's time to put on the ladder that goes from the entrance hatchway to the pilot station. Then after that, I can place in the pilot seat and co-pilot seat. There's a couple of little location points for these to sit on, so getting the angle is fairly easy. But once you can see the contrast with the leather and the black. It does stand out a lot better than just black on black on black. Next is the control arm. Now you have to make these up. You have to make the main bar that holds the control stick or steering column, and that just fits in a tiny little location point. I built this partly on the sprue, as you can see there. That was just for ease of handling, so that it wasn't going to pop off on the tweezers and let the camper monster munch it. So it's best to do something like that, just in case it does fly off somewhere and you can never find it. Now, the location points of these are okay. They're meant to go on in a certain way, and you may find it difficult to get them in that way. Basically, they poke out towards the actual seat at an angle, and you really have to get that angle in the correct position, because if you don't, they will pop up over the cockpit itself, and when you put the canopy on, you may have problems with it. Next to go on are the navigation seats. Now there's 3 of these to go on. They're all very close together. So when you put one in, just make sure it's in the proper position and secure before you put the next one in, because they are liable to pop off if it's not completely set. And once they're in, I'm just touching up the little bits of paintwork where I've scraped them off the contact points for the cement. I'm using Humbrol's RC401 Dirty Black once more for the back of the bottom of this bulkhead. Now you don't necessarily see this, but I think you may glimpse a tiny little bit, so it's better just to paint it in. Now for the shelf of the bulkhead here, the photos I was looking at, there appear to be like 3 little panels on the shelf, little black panels. Whether they're screens or something, I'm not sure. But the detail's not there on this bulkhead. So the best way to simulate that, I thought, was just mask off 4 little rectangular areas and paint them. So this is what I'm doing here, just using a thin bit of masking tape to mark it out. And then once again I'll use RC401 Dirty Black then just to paint in those rectangles. Then once the paint's dry, it's time to remove the masking tape. The paint doesn't take long to dry, about 20 minutes, and then you're able to remove tapes and things. So once it's removed, then you can see the 3 rectangles that I painted in. It's quite effective. It's not exactly the right size, I must admit, but it is a bit of detail that you can add if you wish. But as I said, you generally won't see this anyway, but depending on what version you're doing. The bulkhead goes onto the back of the cockpit capsule. The location for this is really nice. It's lines up really well and secure. But saying that, you always check alignment anyway. Put it up next to your fuselage just to make sure everything is in alignment. Next I'm using Humbrol 102 Army Green for the sidewalls of the fuselage. Technically it should have been the same colour as the bulkhead, but again I wanted a contrast, so I put in the darker green. Next I'm turning my attention to the tail. Now depending on what variant you're going to be doing will determine what tail and you place on now. But I'm doing the variant A, which is the Christmas Island Operation Grapple one. So this tail part has to be removed. So I'm just using my hobby knife to remove it. It's fairly simple. The plastic is a little bit thinner than a normally would for that reason. And you can just, there is a nice line around it, but you can just score it down and take it off. Now, if you're worried about it slipping, I'm using the old panel line scorer just to make it a little bit deeper before I apply my knife. Of course you can use a saw as well, but it's just as easy to use your hobby knife. You just have to be careful. But whatever tool you use, it should come off as easy enough. The second one, I used my scraping tightly for it, and you can see it popping off there. And the new tail, I'm just testing it to fit. Now, there may be a tiny bit of gap in issue, which generally is if you have to cut parts off. You know, but it'll be an easy fix. I'm using Micro Crystal Clear. It's the cement to put in the first clear window. You have to do it at this stage. You can't put it from the inside out, which always annoys me because then you have to mask it if you're brushing and or scrape it off if you're just conventional brushing. I wish they went in the other way. It would just make the build a little bit easier. But that's how these things are. The cockpit went in beautifully. The location for these was spot on. If you just keep it along the running bar, it's moulded inside, you won't have a problem. I'm using RC401 Dirty Black once more, and this is for the back top half of the cockpit that closes it all off. Then it's onto the landing gear housing, and I'm using Humbrol 56 aluminium for this. Now I'm just painting this crudely. I'm not putting much detail in it whatsoever. Although I am having the wheels down, you you're not going to see this much in great detail unless you pick it up and tip it over. It's not to say that I'm rushing it or anything. I'm just not painting in all the tiny little bit details you can do. Then it's time to put in the top part of the cockpit. Now, this should have been easy to place in, but the location points for it, they're not huge, and there's not much for the cement to grip onto. When you put it on, it's all right on one side, and when you close it up. But if you put any pressure on it, and you will have to put pressure on it down the line, it may pop off. So you want to make sure this is completely secure before you move on. And then the bay for the landing gear goes in. Again, the location points there are nice and simple to follow, and they go in easy enough and line up. There is a little bit of gapping issue at the top there, well, not a gapping issue, my apologies. It sort of sticks out a bit from the frame. Now, I didn't know whether this was meant to happen or not, but I left it like that just in case. Next is to put some weight in. Now, the instructions is calling for 22 grams. I always double that, whatever the instructions are calling for. And luckily enough, on this build, there's enough room to add extra weight. Now, I do this just by using some old coins. You can use many different things, but some coins does the purpose as well. I mean, I weigh them before I put them in. So I've got an old pound coin there, some 1 pences, 2 pences, just fitting them in, and secure it with a bit of super glue. And this is where I'll end part 2. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, and please do so, hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit the like button. Don't be afraid to leave a comment. And of course, you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.